number one thing with messaging and positioning is really you just need to know.
Hi, my name is Henry, and in this video, I'll be chatting with my friend Julian about his experience working at SalesForce, positioning and messaging. And make sure to watch till the very end because he'll share some tips on how you can break into product marketing. But before we get started, please make sure to smash the like button to help with the YouTube algorithm. Can you just tell us about yourself?
My name is Julian Walker. I'm a senior product marketing manager at SalesForce for our Service Cloud product. That is, for those of you who don't know, Salesforce has a ton of products, but Service Cloud is all about customer service. So if you call into a call center and that agent's furiously typing on the back end, that's what they're typing into at Service Cloud. So that's just the quick synopsis. But yeah, so I've been doing that for a few years. I love going on a good hike. But one of my things that I've always loved doing the past few years is actually making homemade ice cream. Ice cream is my favorite food. My best friend got me an ice cream maker a couple years ago. And from then I've kind of been hooked making flavors every now and then.
How did you break into product marketing?
Gosh, I started in marketing right after undergrad, came out of UC Irvine and started to do marketing in retail. So I was at Guess Jeans. They're doing retail marketing, a lot of sweepstakes programs, lots of in-store events, loyalty programs. Did the same thing when I pivoted over to work at Adidas, their marketing team in Portland and for their US marketing. I got to do a lot of new store openings, things like that. And then I got to a point where, I was doing retail marketing for about 5 years or so, and I kind of wanted to change. Went to grad school to try to see, what's my next step? And in grad school, I was really in discovery mode, trying to figure out what that next step was. And so I just took a bunch of classes that sounded interesting. And by the end of it, I realized it kind of boiled down to three things. I really loved doing things that related to product innovation. So if it was a class where I had to develop a new product, something like that, really enjoyed the ones that dealt heavily with consumer insights, specifically qualitative insights. So focus groups, doing long form interviews with people to understand what they need. That was always really fun. And then also storytelling. So I would call myself, at this point, I've almost become maybe scratching the surface of like a messaging, positioning expert in a way. And that all started in grad school. I didn't even know I had that in my skill set until then. All that to say, I figured out I liked those three things. And then when I went to go search for a job, I'm like, okay, so how do I get a job using those three things? And lo and behold, product marketing was the one that kind of checked all of those boxes. So that's kind of how I got there. And then when I was graduating grad school, I happened to have a friend an old coworker who I knew worked at SalesForce, and I had done a case study on Salesforce in grad school, realized, wow, this is actually a cool company. Never thought of doing this B2B thing. It kind of sounds boring, to be honest, but let me give it a shot. And she went ahead and referred me, went through the interview process, and it was a great fit. So, yeah.
What's your day-to-day like?
When I came in, was doing that retail kind of role. Now I've actually, a year in, I pivoted in my role. I actually do what we call messaging and positioning full time. I didn't even know that was a full-time job, to be totally honest. I got to work on Dreamforce. It is like our biggest selling event of the year. That's the way we would think about it internally. But to those customers, we basically invite all of our customers from around the world to attend a big event with us. They have those big product keynotes where your executives come on stage and they're shouting about all the new products. So what I do day to day really differs. I was doing something different, wearing different hats, writing scripts, doing speaker coaching with our CEO, CRO, doing set design, video editing. Like it really runs the gambit.
What has been your favorite product marketing project?
I would say so. There's probably two, and I'll say them from the two different roles that I've had. And ironically, both of them are probably the toughest projects I've had, and they were the most time intensive, but I guess they're more rewarding that way. The first one was the one I just finished. So for Dreamforce, like I said, I do the keynote presentations for Service Cloud. So I work with our Service Cloud CEO and prep her and everything. So we basically dreamed up a full-on new keynote presentation, fully filmed in front of a live studio audience, but intended for a virtual audience. So kind of something new that we've never done. So that's what I really liked about it. I got to try something new, got to innovate, got to bring in celebrity talent. So we created this whole theme around designing effortless customer service experiences with Service Cloud. And we brought that to life by doing two things. One, partnering with a great customer. IKEA is a Salesforce customer and an amazing Service Cloud customer. So we were able to bring that effortless experience story to life through demos with them, and actually had their chief digital officer walk us through how they're using our product now and in the future. So that was one piece on that design front. And we even brought in an IKEA set onto the stage, which was pretty cool. So we could sit at it. And then the other way is we brought in the celebrity interior designer, Nate Berkus, who has lines at Target and Living Spaces. And he was Oprah's interior designer at some point. So he was our host for the event. So he got to kind of walk us through and give us some key takeaways from his perspective as like, kind of like that guy who's going to make everything super simple for everything that we're talking about. Like, okay, automation's a big topic. We have a lot of words that we're throwing out there, but at the end of the day, Nate's going to be able to say, okay, you know what? Automation is really like the electrical in your house. It makes everything keep going, and you can just do a simple takeaway. Yeah. So that was number one. That was a really fun project to work on that we just wrapped up. The other one is more internal, but really important for me to help me learn our business. So we obviously, at the end of the day, like I said, we're marching towards a sales goal. So when I was in my retail role, working directly with the retail sellers, we had to do a closing program. So we noticed that a lot of the deals were getting stuck in a particular part of the cycle. They were getting to like mid-stage pipeline, and then they were stalled there for a number of months, and it didn't fit our story. We're like, why is that happening? So we needed to dig into the numbers a little bit more. So we started this closing program called Service Closers, where I literally had to meet with all of the deals that were stalled, all of their account executives, and talk to all of them for weeks and just see what was going wrong and give them resources to help them get out of that stuck pipeline. And it was so many hours. I realize now I probably could have used our product to automate a lot of that process, but I was new and didn't exactly know how to do that. But at the end of the day, I learned a ton about our business and what a sales cycle really entails. But then I also was able to help boost our sales, go over our sales goals through that process. So
what are some important things to know about messaging and positioning?
the number one thing with messaging and positioning is really you just need to know your customer. Like literally put them at the center of everything you do. One thing we can honestly get better at in what we do now at SalesForce is even just honing in on the right insight and making sure you have that right insight, or at least a pain point to drill into. Once you have that, and you can message really anything around it. If you're solving for that pain point, customers are really gravitating towards that. And one thing I've really noticed during this whole last 18 months we've been living through is that people are just fed up with these long-winded like messages, and they just want to get to the point and they want to see that you solve their problem. So if you're doing that, you're going to be really set up for success.
Is there anything that I guess you discovered recently about messaging that you didn't know before?
I come from the B2C world, so my mind always goes there. And one thing I've always noticed with the B2C world is that when you think about your favorite brands, like a Nike or a Disney, all of those, you have a really emotional connection to those brands. You can think about the first time you wore them or visited a park, and you know a distinct memory. With a B2B product, that doesn't usually exist. Like you're like, okay, yeah, my work makes me use it. I don't really have that. I would say of any product, Salesforce probably has more of a connection even than that, because we have this really unique brand behind our product. But still, I'm like, how can we somehow merge those B2C and B2B worlds a little bit more to tap into a message that is more on the emotional side? Even though it is a buy that you have to make with lots of data, because you're going to be spending a couple $100,000 from your company, like you need to be making sure you're making a smart decision. But how do we tap into that emotion of that buyer through our message? So that's something that maybe I haven't cracked the nut at yet, but it's something that I kind of want to see if I can push forward a little bit more.
What do you enjoy the most about being a product marketing manager? And also, what do you enjoy the least?
Product marketing is really kind of a hub in the business in a way. You work cross-functionally with so many people, whether it's product management, engineering, content, consumer insights, social media, legal, operations, like everything. So you're really kind of a hub and pulling all of those pieces together, partnerships, all of those things. So I love working cross-functionally, get to really know the business and get to know a lot of people across the business. I think that's the fun part. I think the con, that is also can be a con, because you need a lot of alignment. And sometimes, especially at a company like Salesforce, it is growing exponentially. Like I think when I started, we had not even 40,000 people. Now I think we're over 70,000. That's just over the course of less than 3 years. So there's just a lot of people to get on the same page. And one thing I've learned doing messaging is like you really have to even internally cater your message to each group or each person individually. Because what I say to the CEO of our product versus someone on the PR team two completely different things, and even though they ladder up to the same overall message.
What advice do you have for those who are trying to break into product marketing, especially if they don't have a product or a marketing related background?
Be confident in who you are and what you do, and don't psych yourself out. And I think the third piece of that, the most important part, is your difference is your biggest advantage. So for me, my difference was that I knew retail and I needed to talk about retail more. So if you come from a different background, if you come from B2C, if you come from manufacturing and entering healthcare, like being able to turn whatever that previous experience is and spin it into a differentiator for you, to establish yourself as like a really an expert in that area, I think is the best part. So use your difference as your differentiator.
Well, thank you so much for sharing about your experience.
Sounds good. Thanks, Henry. I'll talk to you later. When it comes to great customer service, we all know one thing's for sure. Speed is the name of the game. And John Hancock is changing the future of service fast. So let me show you how with this visionary example. This is Service Cloud Voice.